Discapades, starring Beefcake and Butterball. I'm Charlie Butterball Rose. He's Mark Beefcake Knudsen. And our sponsors this week are, that's right, absolutely nobody. But Mark, tell our fans who we got on the show today.
Well, I like to, I've known Russ for quite a few years. He's, was involved, when I met him, he was involved in wheelchair basketball. And he was a person who, like me, we don't have a lot of height, but what he made effective and his main job when he was playing basketball was basically getting in the way of people. So I'd like to introduce to you now Russ Stover from Duluth, Minnesota.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on here. It should be fun.
Yeah. No, Russ, have you grown up in Duluth then, I would assume?
I have. I grew up on West Skyline Parkway that's behind Spirit Mountain, way down the road there, almost to the park. And then I grew up there. I bought the home for my mom, the last of 7 kids. And then I had a fire in '84. I rebuilt, and I just recently sold the home I built there about 5 years ago, and I live in a condo now. So.
Oh, did you? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Much easier.
So you were the youngest of 7 then, huh?
Yeah, right. And we had a pretty tight neighborhood. It was pretty much a blue-collar neighborhood with quite a few of the people that worked at the steel mill in Morgan Park, and my father worked construction, and it was one of those old-fashioned neighborhoods, where everybody watched everybody's kid.
Right. Yeah, because I'm curious because I know when I was growing up too, the neighborhood kids, I don't know what your neighborhood was like, but I know for me, the neighborhood kids were really good about keeping me, I always say it in a nice way that, my neighborhood friends treated me like I was a puppy dog. They enjoyed having me, and they were just always curious to see what I could do. And they just always brought, I was always doing things with them. Were you in that? Did you have that kind of?
I was a little bit older than some of the kids, and I was kind of a ringleader some days, but every day out in the yard, we played wiffle ball or we were out in the woods, so there was always that going on. In the wintertime, the neighbor guy built us a tiny little rink, so we'd be out there, playing hockey, and I was the goalie, and I got plenty of things fired up my head, of course. But no, we had a great neighborhood and a lot of fun, and it was just outside of town, so it was rural, and
Right, yeah.
a lot of apple trees and gardens and those kinds of things. Yeah, it was good.
So, and growing, with the neighborhood kids, gosh, I know for myself, some of the predicaments, we would get ourselves into, we, just like any neighborhood. Now you may not, because out in the rural area, but we'd like to do the old ring the doorbell and run type thing. And they adapted it a little bit for me, where what our rule was that I didn't have to go up to the doorbell to ring it, but I had to be on the sidewalk, where the sidewalk goes up to the house. So it took one friend to be at the door to ring it, and then another friend had to be with me to hurry up and get my butt out of there. I mean, did you have different situations? I would imagine, especially in a rural area.
We had the kid in the neighborhood that did the notorious apple throwing at cars.
Oh, and you got involved in it too?
Yeah, no, I didn't do it. I refused because I knew I couldn't run into the bushes, so I didn't do it. But it was pretty funny because the neighbor girl, she threw one at a car, and it was her dad.
And she didn't even know it?
No, she wasn't thinking.
Oh,
she did it way ahead of time, But anyway, I don't know. I think you too. I spent from when I was about 5 until 12. I spent a lot of my childhood down at the Shrine Hospital too.
Oh, up in the cities here then. Okay.
Yeah. On what is it? Down by the river there.
Right. Yeah. On the St. Paul side. Yep.
I'll confess, I spent 16 consecutive months there myself, when I was 5 years old. So yeah, I'm familiar with the place.
Yeah, I did some long, I did some long-term time there too, as they called it.
Now,
I
what,
did
Yes.
now,
time.
what
Hey,
kind of, I would assume did you pull any shenanigans when you were in the hospital in those
Oh,
durations?
yeah, the funny thing is, you guys will relate to this. So many feel-good people are about, oh, the poor little handicapped kids in the
Right,
hospital,
yeah.
and blah,
right.
blah, blah. Well, you put about 18 boys together in the wing of a hospital on the end of and they're all from like 5 to 12. Come on. What do you
Yep.
think is going to happen? We were holy terrors, we made
Yeah.
some of those, the nurses were just the most wonderful people in the world. And, some days we made their life miserable,
I was just,
we were little boys. Come on.
so what were some of the good gags or stunts that you would pull off then? What were you known for?
Well, at night, we would supposed to be sleeping and then be quiet, and then we'd tell ghost stories late at night, and we'd dare kids to get out of their bed and run around, in the dark, and just stupid kid stuff,
Right.
And then, you did, uh, throwing the spitball type things and the,
Yeah.
what's a weapon, what isn't a weapon, don't let that kid play with anything sharp. He's gonna do something,
I remember
Did you-
being in these
that-
rooms where there's one TV and like a dozen kids, and the nurse always decided what you were watching. So you learn how to like soap operas after a while.
No, but everybody look forward to was it like Saturday night to have the local wrestling on, the
Ah,
Vern
yeah.
Gagne days.
Oh, right, right, yeah.
Yep.
The very capable Kenny J.
Every Saturday or Sunday morning. There you go.
Yep. So there was that going, but yeah, we had this. That's the way the Shrine Hospital was. You had 3 wards. One was like 6 beds. That was the youngest little kids.
Right.
And then the next ward was like 6 to 10, and then 10 up in the next 12-bed ward.
Yep.
So yeah, it was, and there was always something going on we weren't supposed to be doing.
Hey, I actually
Now-
spent one holiday there, and the Shriners brought in like huge garbage bags full of toys for every kid, and it was the greatest experience of having to be there.
I think that I had 3. Remember, I had 3 Christmases there
Wow.
altogether, and the same thing is you could ask for just about anything you wanted, but you couldn't have an electric crane. Everybody wanted one, of course, because there
Yeah.
really wasn't any room for that.
Oh,
But
okay.
you'd wake up Sunday, Christmas morning, and look under your bed, and there'd be just great big plastic bag just full of anything you asked for, any kind of
Wow.
coloring book or model car, or whatever. And there it
Well,
was.
I remember the big Tonka dump trucks we had gotten from there. So yeah, it was something.
Yeah, I got them down there, and I got them at home.
Yeah, we should have held on to them.
No, for high school, for school and that, now see, Charlie and I, we went to junior high and high school at Marshall U in the cities on the Minneapolis side, because that's where all the disabled kids in Minneapolis went. And I remember because at that time I won't say when we were in high school, but a few decades ago, let's just put it that way, we made a trip up to Duluth. And I remember we did play some floor hockey against a team. I don't remember how did Duluth handle? Did they send their their kids with disabilities?
Well, here, that's probably a really good one to talk about that, because in the late 60s, early 70s, all the kids with disabilities were in like 2 age groups in a single classroom in
Sure.
one of the schools, and they weren't integrated at all.
Oh, wow.
And I like, when I was like 10, 12 years old, I complained because I wanted to go to school with, my friends, my friends from the school I should have been going to were all my sister's friends, because she went there, and
Yeah.
So then finally, when I was about 12, the junior high teacher in the adjoining junior high said that I could go to his art class once a day. Now, during that time, this would have been about 1969. Teacher didn't have to take a kid with a disability. You know?
Oh,
Yeah, they're just like, no, he's not coming to my class. So anyway, this teacher took me in, and that all worked out well. And in the 8th grade, I was actually the first kid in a wheelchair in Duluth mainstreamed in the public school.
oh, you were?
Yeah, when I was turned 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we were in junior high and high school, we all went to the same high school, but the high school and junior high was able-bodied and disabled kids.
Right.
Yeah, so we were intermixed. But yet again, we weren't going to our local school.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, by the time I became a sophomore, I was going to our local high school. That was always what I wanted to do. And I was there for 3 years. And I was the only kid in a wheelchair out of 1,400 of us.
Oh, wow.
So everybody knew me to this day. They still know who I am because of that. And of course, I can't remember over 1,000 people.
Yeah, no, yeah, same. Yeah, same here. Because, well, our class size, Marshall U was one of the smaller schools in the Minneapolis school system. So our class size at Marshall was only about 150 students per class, where the typical Minneapolis school was around 1,000 kids. Yeah, per class.
Yeah, I think we graduated it was a declining, but still high then. And there was getting to the end of the steel plant days where they laid off in the early 70s, where they laid off 2,000 workers plus the contributing businesses. So our class was 460. So that wasn't bad, but since the decline of even added a class, 9 through 12, not just 10 through 12.
So when you were a senior then, how many disabled students were there in the school you were going to? Or were you still the only one?
I was the only one.
Oh, you were, so your whole
Yeah, but a few people I'd gone to school with when I was younger they'd changed things in the school district, and they started to get to go to be mainstreamed in their neighborhood school also.
Okay. Yeah, because this would have I'm not sure all I know is we came up to Duluth and spent the night, and I think, I know we played a couple games up there, and I don't know if it was a particular school we competed against, or if they just pooled a few of their schools wherever the disabled students were.
Yeah,
played us.
Mark, many of the kids we played against, they actually put able-bodied kids in wheelchairs to play against us because they didn't have enough disabled kids to play.
Right.
Oh, I guess I forgot that part of it.
And
yeah, we did that sometimes for fun, and we'd get our buddies to come play with us. We had a blast.
Yeah.
Oh,
And-
yeah. And
I recall.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I recall in one of those games, or actually, we only played one scrimmage game, and I was on the scooter board along the bench line, and I had a kid who was an able-bodied kid in a wheelchair, and he's trying to defend me, and so I'm going back and forth, and he's going back and forth, and I make one quick move to my right. He tries to go forward, and he dumped the chair over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we, back in the day, when the Twin Ports Flyers wheelchair basketball team was done with basketball, we would always play a little floor hockey. And one year, we played a bar team. We got them all wheelchairs, and we played a bar team 2 out of 3 for a keg of beer. We did beat them, and they did pay up.
Oh, did
But it was pretty good. I mean, after a while, they weren't going too soft on us, and we were dumping them over like crazy.
No, was there drinking during the game, or was it after?
No. it got pretty rough, but it was great. Um, yeah, that was fun. But anyway, but the whole school thing, yeah, I was kind of the test case before it
Okay.
became law. Before it came, I was kind of the test
Okay.
in both. Yeah.
And then once you got out of high school, did you go on to more schooling then, or?
No, not really. I went to photography school in Minneapolis for a little while, and then I came back to Duluth, and I spent like, let's see, 13, 14 years working at Arrowhead Blacktop, which was like on the way in from Minneapolis, south of Duluth. I spent a lot of years working there. And in that place, they sold and the owner got old or whatever it was. And I was
Yeah.
happy to get out of there. I hated that job, work up the skills and had to wrangle truck drivers every day. And then I went, did a few odd jobs in the early 90s. Then I went to work for another contractor in Duluth, which at the time was and still is probably the largest contractor in Duluth for 4 years. But I had that job when I won my city council race, but decided to not to work there anymore because I didn't want the conflict of interest and out of the respect to the owner who I really respect.
Right, yeah. And then how long were you on the city council then?
8 years.
8 years, okay.
Yeah, 2000, 2008, then 2009 until this last May, I worked at North Country Independent Living in Superior.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So during your time on the city council, was there some moments or situations that made it difficult because of your disability at all, or?
No, a few times there was a city councilor that brought up a point about somebody riding the wheelchair, power wheelchair downtown out in the street, and he had a problem with that. And of course, typical winter, there's snow all over the place, and they can't get up on the sidewalk, and
Right.
so the guy is going down behind where the cars are all parked in downtown Duluth at a diagonal. So this
Oh,
person's
that's right,
like,
they are. I remember
yeah,
that.
so this
Yep.
person's like going in behind the cars, and it's not dangerous at all. Everybody walks around, and if it was a person walking, he wouldn't have a problem with it. So he said, if people in power wheelchairs are going to be wandering around on the streets, we need to make them have red flags on their wheelchairs. And everybody said that. I can't remember, but I just about lost it.
Did
You
you?
know? I said, yeah. I said, but I do remember saying, if you're going to make people in wheelchairs have red flags, you're going to make everybody downtown walking around have red flags on their wheelchairs,
Right. And he. So I suppose, did you end up kind of, being on the city council and with the other city council members, did you end up kind of like being the go-to person on disability issues then?
Well, they were pretty careful about that kind of thing. I think they stepped gently around it, and a few times they would ask me, but they knew that I would always be asking about, uh, issues for sort of job placements and if it's going to be fair for everybody to be interviewed and if new projects were made accessible and
Right.
after a while, by then things were getting a lot better, but you still had to kind of watch, things would slip through.
Yeah, you do, because you just when you think they've got it, something comes up and you're like, seriously, they're still doing this. No,
Well, when I worked at Northland Constructors, I went to they did a small little strip mall for I think it was a window or a construction company out in West Duluth, and they did this little building and they did the parking lot, and I went there and there was no curb cut, and the guy that was the foreman on the job, I said, hey, where's the curb cut? And he said, look at the plans, he forgot them, and he felt really bad.
Yeah.
Talk to me about it. I said, just fix it. Now you didn't put the curb cut in the cement, you're just gonna have to probably build one on the blacktop now, to get one up there. And he's, oh God, I'm so sorry. It was on the plans and he didn't do it.
Yeah, I about a year or so, they added this sidewalk kind of behind our house. We have a house and there's a street back there in front of that house. and they put this long sidewalk in finally. And they only put a curb cut in the middle. No, they put a curb cut at the beginning of it and at the end of the sidewalk. But this sidewalk went for like 4 blocks. And right, so there's, because it's just a long street where the sidewalk is on one street where there's no houses and there's railroad tracks. And then on the other side is where the houses are. But anyways, I saw them working on this, and I saw they did not put a curb cut like 2 blocks down in the middle. So I went and I went to City Hall. I'm in a small town. I live in Jordan. So I went down there and I talked with the city maintenance guy who's in charge of these projects. And, I told him, I said, that new sidewalk you guys are putting in, you got no curb cuts. You got it at the beginning, at the end. And he said, oh gosh, yeah. He said, let me talk to, the engineering firm that's in charge of it. And he got a hold of the guy right away, because by the time I got out to my van and I was getting ready to leave, I saw him again, and he goes, Mark, I just talked to it. And he goes, you won't believe what they told me. I go, what? He says, well, they didn't want to put a curb cut in the middle part, 2 blocks down, halfway down, because they didn't want people coming across to using the sidewalk. And I'm like, well, why in the heck did they even put the sidewalk there? I said, you put it there for safety. You're wanting people to use it. And I told them, I said, and if you don't have that curb cut, then you've got moms pushing their babies in strollers. They're the ones you want up on the sidewalk. They're just going to keep rolling down the street. And he goes, yeah, Mark, I know. He says, I couldn't believe it when I heard it from them.
The people that are living in the adjacent homes are the ones that are going to go to that sidewalk across the street.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I got you now, yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah, because the sidewalk was across the street that ran the length of these 4 blocks, because on one side of the street, you had 4 blocks of houses. And then on the other side, you had this sidewalk that ran along, because there was railroad tracks on the other side of the road. So,
but you still need an approach. I did this also myself for a living, and I was in the Public Works Committee on the city, because even though I don't know that much about it, I've worked around construction my whole life, and thought I was probably best on that. But anyway, yeah, it makes no sense to have an approach. So anyway, how many did they end up putting in then?
Well, they did put the one in. It still kind of drives me batty. They put one right in the middle of this long sidewalk. So you basically, from the beginning where the sidewalk starts, you go down like 2 blocks, curb cut, and then you go another 2 blocks, and that's where the end of the sidewalk is, and that. So, but it is kind of a strange thing. So we've got about 10 minutes left, and I'd like to talk. I'm really curious about, I noticed you had a picture of you getting in or getting out of a stock car or a racing car.
No stock car. God, don't ever say stock car to a drag.
Okay, I'm sorry. Racing car.
A drag racing car is like, they're very nice, and sometimes, like mine now, it was taken, bought back to the guy I bought it from. He turned it back all into original, because you can do that with a drag racing car. They pretty much, the body of the car remains the same its whole life.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Unless you highly modify it. But anyway, he got it back now, and it's all back to stock. But stock cars get smashed up every year, and a new one's built. So it's not a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a high valued thing as far as restoration.
Oh, right.
Or not not a special interest auto. It's just a stock car. But anyway, no, I raced down there for many years, and it's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do because you have to spend every waking spare minute you have in the garage doing something for that 12
Yeah.
seconds of joy you get on the weekend. And you have to travel, you have to get there, and it might rain, you might have to go right home. You have to spend a ton of money. Not on the race car doesn't take hardly any gas. It's the vehicle to get the race car there that takes the gas. It's like
Oh,
anything.
right.
It's like anything. If you're going to recreate, you got to have something to tow, something to pull it with, something to
Yeah.
put the car on. You got to. Now, of course, my buddy, he still races. They've all evolved into RVs and enclosed trailers, and
Right.
back in your 30s, you're lucky to borrow an open trailer for the weekend to get down to Brainerd. But it was a lot of fun, and met a lot of good people. Still know some of them, and oh yeah, there's a lot of good stories out of that.
So
Did you
did
know?
you spend
I
some
would
time
assume.
at Brainerd International then with that vehicle?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you spend time at Brainerd International Raceway then?
Yeah, that's mostly where I went. Sometimes down
Okay.
to Eau Claire has a track down there too. But Brainerd, back when I did it, they had a drag race about once every month during the
Okay.
summer because it's a multi-use racetrack. But they had drag races about once a month, and they had a divisional races, and they also Brainerd had their own points race, and yeah, it was good.
So
My-
did you
my-
was during the races were there tempers? Did tempers fly like you sometimes see in that, or
Never.
yeah,
I don't know about now, but back when I did it, it's a different mindset there. If you need a part in your car brake, someone's going to get it, lend you one or give you one or sell it to you, or no one's ever going to let your car be broke because they have the part, even if you're going to be the next person racing them.
So
did
true
you
sportsmanship going on.
go ahead,
up there.
Charlie?
I'm sorry, what, Charlie?
That's some true sportsmanship going on up there then.
It really was, Charlie. It's exactly what it was. And like I blew up an engine there one time and into everybody and bring the car back to the pit, and there must have been about 12 people right over to help push that thing back up on the trailer. And people, just the way it is with racing. The guys really, really help each other out, especially down there when it gets to be crunch time.
Yeah.
How was it when you came onto the scene, being in a wheelchair and that? What kind of reaction or response did you get from racers?
Well, that's a good question. And what happened was I was before I raced, I was down at the Division 5 banquet for NHRA, and I went up to the president of the Division 5, which is the Midwest, and I said, introduced myself. Now, obviously, he's a wheelchair, and he said, I said, what do I have to do to race? He said, you got a driver's license? I said, yeah. He said, all you got to do is have your car pass safety tech, you're in. So I probably have run across the least amount of kind of preconceived notions or discrimination on the racetrack than anywhere.
Really, that's
And so have women.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's gone that way for women too. They have no reason to say you can't race. They're very good about, and there's other guys that race down there with hand controls. I wasn't the only one.
Oh, you weren't the only one then?
No,
Okay.
there are a few others.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's
and so basically that's the thing about drag racing, not so much now as it used to be. It used to be a weekend thing where you took your personal car and went and raced it. People don't do that much anymore. But it's always been, if you have a driver's license, a seatbelt and a helmet, pass the safety inspection,
Yeah.
then that's it, you're done, You don't have to have a full-blown race car to go pull on a drag strip, especially like a little, a local racetrack.
right,
A
right.
lot of rural guys are out there doing it,
Yeah. Usually it's my wife that's putting on the helmet when I'm driving. So that's the way that works.
Well, that's always a good, safety first,
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. No,
So-
it was all a really good time, and if I had to do it all over again, I would have blown even more money.
Right, yeah, yeah. So, but before we leave here, what, if you could think of is there one particular escapade or situation you found yourself in that was just kind of pretty hilarious in the end?
I have one story that I tell people.
Okay,
It was in the early 80s. I was working at Arrowhead Blacktop out behind my house there at the quarry and the scale. And my boss, Leo, said, Russ, we got the portable blacktop plant going up the North Shore on County Road 1. I need you to call and get a satellite, which is what they called a porta potty then. You know,
Gotcha.
I need to call, and you order one up there, and he told me where the pit was. You drive so many miles, blah, 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 state pit, turn right. So I called the woman at the satellite company. I said, we need a satellite. And I told her where it was. And the marathon was coming up in June. So I had her on the phone. And I said, you know, I bet you're really busy this week with the marathon coming up. She goes, oh, God, because we have units all the way up and down the shore. She says, those people are crazy. I said, I'm one of them crazy ones. I'm going to do the marathon. She said, oh, you are? I said, yeah. And she said, you're going to need a wheelchair when you're done. Well, I didn't say a thing. All I said was, yep, you're right, I am. I had a brother-in-law that really loved that story. He thought it was hilarious.
that is a good. Did you ever do the marathon or?
Twice I did it, yeah.
And that's what I thought, yeah. Did you do a lot of track events then or no?
I did a few.
A few, yeah, same.
Yeah.
You and me both really, well, you did the marathon. I could never have done the marathon. I'm not built for the track. I'm built more for the 100 because, you know, I did weightlifting. I got the good upper body, but I
Yeah.
don't have the stamina to do the long. So 100-yard dash, I can suck up enough wind, hold my breath, and just muscle
Yeah.
through it. So
It's fun, though. The 100's fun. Yeah,
what's that?
the 100 is fun.
It is. Yep. So, well, I think
What
we're
I really liked was up in Hibbing, they had a race where you went from the outside of town to downtown. It was a 1 mile race, and they did it in heats.
oh gosh.
It was fun. 1
Yeah.
mile, I think I did a, what did I do? I did a 6:30.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so it's fun.
well, we're about ready to lose our connection here, so we better wrap it up. I want to thank you once again, Russ, and I'll let Charlie finish it off here for us on Discapades. Go ahead, Charlie.
All right. Well, he's Mark Beefcake Knudsen. I'm Charlie Butterbrow Rose. This has been Discapades with our special guest, Russ Stover, today. Thanks for joining us. We'll check you next time.
If you want to be a part of Discapades, we want to have you. So drop us a note at disabilitychannelmn@gmail.com.